The sprawling mansion of billionaire industrialist Edward Harrington was a palace of marble floors, chandeliers that dripped like frozen waterfalls, and corridors that whispered with wealth, but within its golden walls lived a shadow of sadness, a little girl named Isabella, his only daughter, who had never taken a step since birth. Doctors from every corner of the world had come, charged millions in fees, brought machines that blinked with hope and medicines that promised miracles, but the result was always the same. Isabella sat in her wheelchair, her eyes reflecting innocence but also carrying the silent pain of being different. Edward buried his sorrow beneath business meetings, deals, and social appearances, while Isabella's mother had left years ago, unable to cope with the weight of raising a child with such challenges. Isabella's world was limited to the glass windows of her room, where she would watch children play in the courtyard below, longing to join them, longing to run, longing to be free. Into this world of riches but despair entered someone no one expected, a single father named Daniel, who came not as a guest, not as a doctor, not as a tutor, but as a humble cleaner, dressed in simple overalls, carrying a mop and a bucket, hired by the agency that handled staff for the mansion. Daniel was not the kind of man who blended in with the gold and marble. His hands were calloused from years of labor, his eyes tired but kind, and his back bent slightly from the burdens he had carried, both physical and emotional. He was a widower, raising his little daughter Emily alone after his wife died in childbirth, and he had taken up every odd job imaginable to keep her fed, clothed, and schooled. Cleaning the Harrington estate was just another job for him, one that promised steady pay, nothing more, or so he thought. The first day Daniel entered Isabella's room, he was struck not by the grandeur of the furnishings but by the little girl in the corner, watching him silently. Most servants avoided looking directly at her, out of respect or perhaps pity, but Daniel met her gaze, and with a small smile said, "Hi there, princess." The words startled Isabella. No one had ever spoken to her so casually, so warmly, without the heavy tone of sympathy or the artificial sweetness of hired nannies. For the first time in a long while, she giggled. That sound became the beginning of something extraordinary. Day after day, Daniel worked in her room, dusting, polishing, scrubbing, but always taking a few minutes to talk to Isabella. He told her stories about his daughter Emily, who loved climbing trees and painting rainbows on the walls of their tiny apartment. He made Isabella laugh with funny voices and silly faces while sweeping the floor, and sometimes he even let her hold his broom like a sword as he pretended to be a dragon. Slowly, Isabella opened up. She told him about her dreams, how she wanted to run barefoot on the grass, how she wanted to dance in the rain, how she wanted to be free of the chair that bound her. Daniel listened with the patience of a father who understood pain, and though he was just a cleaner, something inside him whispered that maybe, just maybe, there was more he could do. One day, Daniel brought Emily with him to work because he had no one to watch her, and that day changed everything. Emily, full of life, bounded into Isabella's room with a smile as wide as the sun and said, "Hi. Want to play?" Isabella hesitated, looking at her chair, but Emily didn't even notice. She grabbed Isabella's hands and started telling her about her dolls, her paintings, her games. For the first time, Isabella wasn't being treated like someone fragile or broken. She was just a girl, a friend. Daniel watched quietly as Emily encouraged Isabella to try small movements, clapping and cheering when Isabella lifted her legs even slightly. That night, when Daniel tucked Emily into bed, she whispered, "Daddy, Isabella is special. I think she can walk if someone believes in her." Those words hit Daniel like lightning. He had lost his wife, struggled through poverty, but never lost his belief in miracles, and now, he felt one was calling him. The next day, Daniel asked Edward for permission to spend more time with Isabella, not as a doctor, but as a friend. Edward, exhausted from disappointment, almost laughed at the idea that a cleaner could succeed where specialists had failed, but something in Daniel's sincerity made him pause. He gave a reluctant nod, saying, "Do what you want, but don't give her false hope." And so began Daniel's journey, not as a cleaner anymore, but as a mentor, a motivator, a man determined to help a little girl believe in herself. He didn't bring machines or medicines, he brought laughter, encouragement, patience, and love. Each day, he and Emily visited Isabella. They played games that involved stretching her legs, balancing with support, and slowly building strength. Isabella would fall, cry, get frustrated, but Daniel's calm voice always lifted her. Every step, no matter how small, is a victory. And I'll be here for every one of them. Emily would clap and cheer, shouting, "You're amazing, Bella." The mansion staff began whispering about the cleaner who dared to believe in miracles, and even Edward found himself watching from the doorway at times, his hardened eyes softening as he saw his daughter smile brighter than she ever had. Weeks turned into months, and Isabella grew stronger, her legs trembling but beginning to support her weight. The day finally came when, with Daniel holding one hand and Emily holding the other, Isabella stood without support. The entire room froze as she wobbled, fear and excitement battling in her eyes. "You can do this," Daniel whispered, his own heart racing. And with one shaky step, Isabella moved forward. Then another. And another. She was walking, slowly, unsteadily, but walking. The room erupted with tears, laughter, and applause. Edward, who had entered silently, broke down, rushing forward to hold his daughter, whispering, "My Bella, you did it." That night, Daniel returned home with Emily, knowing that something extraordinary had begun. He had been just a cleaner, but now he was part of a miracle. And deep down, he wondered what other unbelievable things life still had in store.